welcome back from that break. This is still the AM Club coming to you live from the Mix 24 studios, Oleander Street, East Legon, Accra, Ghana. My name is Miriam Udwak Mensa. Well, today marks World NGO Day, and it's a day set aside to celebrate the organizations and individuals working tirelessly behind the scenes to drive change, uplift communities, and champion causes that matter. Okay, now from education and healthcare to women empowerment to girl child development and youth development as well, NGOs continue to fill in critical gaps and shape national conversations. And today is a day to celebrate their hard work and all the dedication they put in making that happen. This morning on the AM Club, we are spotlighting their impact. We're looking at their challenges and, of course, the future of civic action in Ghana and beyond. And we are going to be talking about some organizations that are doing an incredible job. Joining me in this to have this conversation this morning, we do have Reverend Faustina Coleman, Founder, Executive Council Director, Marasam NGO Limited. And we have Ira Ama Jenkins, Founder, Reformation Community, Kezia Seni Kema, Sani Kema Esquire, okay, Esquire, Founder and President for the Future Organization, okay? Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing? We're great?
Very well,
Awesome.
thank you.
First of all, we just want to thank you for your hard work. When you go out there, you see a military man on the streets, you see all the children. Thank you so much for your service for this country. We want to say thank you so much for your service to this country and to all the people that you've been supporting all these years. It's really great to have you join us in the studio this morning. I'm going to start with you, Reverend. Can you tell us about your NGO? Tell us about that and the vision behind the establishment.
Thank you very much as well. We are privileged to be with you this morning. My name is Reverend Coleman, like you said. And Marasam is the NGO. Marasam is a Ghana-based organization that was formed to help the orphans, the aged, the vulnerable in our communities, and then the orphans. And so our vision is to impart so that those that are really suffering can have hope. There is hope for everybody. And so we check on the aged, because when you are old, sometimes you are left behind. Nobody cares for you. So we meet on Tuesday in Tema, have fellowship, have time with them, and then send them out for excursion.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and then with the widows, many young ones as well, not only old widows, young ones as well. We bring all of them together and then help them with their trade and whatever aspect in life that we have to help them, what we do. Sometimes in the hospital base we visit. Some of them go to the hospital, they come back with problems that they have not been released because they owe. So we release them as well by paying their bills and others for them. So it's formed to help and impart, bring hope, initiate. Those are the less privileged areas, the unserved communities in our society, in Ghana and beyond.
Reverend, at what point in your life did you decide that this is a thing to do? At what point?
Very good. I'm very young. After the secondary school in 87, I was teaching the JY, Youth for Jesus, in the Presby Church. And I was teaching the Methodist Church as well, the young ones. And you interact with them, I realized that there were problems that need to be looked at. So I was very tender at that time, and I started loving them, bringing them together, and then asking problems that we can help solve. So I started very early. Very, very early.
Identifying these problems in the church.
Yes, please. And then in the community, in the society, beyond, not only in Accra, we go to Ada and other places. So we check on all of them. And then the orphans, far away to Gomwa, we go there and then help them with their schools, books, school fees, and a whole lot of things that we do. We have massively helped a lot of people in the society. So I started very early.
Very early.
Yes, please. We still
Wow. Impressive. So it's not too early to start, okay? It's not too early to start. I'm going to come to you, Esquire. I mean, someone would say, a young woman like you, why are you wasting time going after, take, and I say wasting time carefully. It's not that taking care of people is a waste of time. So just so you know, don't take this out of context. But why why did you start an NGO? What was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, so thank you, and it's such an honor to be on your screens this morning.
We're humbled
Just
to have
like
you.
Reverend, I also started actually when I was 16 years old, and I was in Wesley Girls High School
Mm.
with my friends, and we did notice something that was happening in our pantries where children would come and steal from us
Oh.
and take our food. But I noticed there was a problem, which is why they were stealing our food, and it's just that they were hungry. So for me, I had also taken notes of many children in my neighborhood when I was living in Dakoman. Um, Kayaye children, Kayaye women's children, right? And I would be going to school when I see them sleeping in front of the shops and the kiosks, but they wouldn't be going to school. So I'll ask myself questions. But I was really small at the time. I would say 8 to 9 years old. Yeah, so I wouldn't really be able to understand what's happening, but
Yeah.
it's just like I take notice of
Yeah.
it, right? Then I go to senior high school, and then now I see this problem again, and then I'm like, okay, I have my friends. We have the same chop box food that they are
Yeah.
stealing.
Yeah.
So how about whenever we are vacating, I get my classmates and I mean other classes in West Eagles High School to basically donate their chop box food for us to go into the communities to share them. And so
Whilst in
that was how,
school.
yes, that was how it started. And for us, it became more like a movement because many other young people from other schools started to join our NGO as at the time in 2016. So this year we are 10, and we still do have many of those people that joined us back then from Infantipim, Adisco, Laboni, SHS, Sachimota School, and have helped us to, build the NGO to this point. So now our main focus is to empower underprivileged children, but we have a very unique approach to do that.
Okay.
We try to identify children by stories and also telling their stories to find them help or sponsors that will take up the story. And then on a child by child basis, we empower them based on their circumstances.
Okay.
So
Okay.
every child is different in their problems, I would say. There are some of them that we have to rescue from abuse and then put them in school. Some not really rescuing from abuse, but their parents are maybe handicapped, are not able to work, so they cannot afford like the basic needs for the child. There are some of them that are orphans and so on and so forth. And so for us, since 2016 and even later on in our years, we started taking up some of them, finding them sponsors and putting them in school with the help of sponsors. And so now we have 13 of them that we fully sponsor through school,
Okay.
and then also enroll them in programs or activities that helps them to, I would say, bring out their talents. Just an example, there's this boy that we discovered able to make toy cars with wood called Prince Kojo. And this boy had been going through a lot of abuse from his stepfather. There's a whole backstory. And when we met him, we didn't only notice that he needed help academically and whatnot, but we noticed that this is a very talented boy whose talent could go to waste if no one cared. And so we found him help through the help of, Ashesi University. There was a member of staff that had a robotics academy, and he got a full scholarship. So now this boy is able to make robots, and very interesting thing. Now he's not only making toy cars with wood, his cars have, Bluetooth, can, come on with lights and so on and so forth. And he's so bent on becoming an automobile engineer. So for someone like Prince, what we are trying to do is to help him to get there. So that's how we run our program.
That's an interesting story, and thank you so much once again. I'm gonna come to you, Miss Jenkins. I want to understand what scope you focus on when it comes to your NGO and your organization. What's your scope of work like?
So it's really youth development. We work with two demographics: children between 6 to 15, and then young adults between 18 to 24. And I think what we are trying to solve is what people would call a wicked problem.
A wicked problem.
A wicked problem.
What is that? I'm interested.
Well, it goes down to, it's very subjective in nature, right? It goes down to personal people's critical thinking skills and their ability to solve problems. So whereas you'd ideally be able to measure, say, maybe if we were supposed to donate to a school, you'd be able to easily measure that the impact has reached maybe 300 or 400 people, what we are doing is actually teaching people critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, giving them opportunities. And that is a bit more difficult to measure in terms of impact when you are looking at long term. So mine is a 25-year plan. By 2050, we want 1 million young people to call themselves reformers. So you see my T-shirt, I have "I am a reformer" at the back, right? What it simply means is that I'm a problem solver, and we are very Afrocentric in nature, right? So the idea is that as many young people in Africa should want to solve our problems and should be working actively to solve those problems. Please.
Am I the only one who's about to lose my mind right now? Who goes around thinking that there are people who are not critical thinkers? My first time hearing that word, by the way, was in the university. So I didn't go to university early. I did a few programs because I became a teenage mother. So my life was, I wouldn't say, for lack of a better expression, was altered a little bit. Yeah. So instead of going straight to the university from senior high school, I didn't have the luxury of doing that. I had to do programs and. So by the time I was going to university, I think I went to university 4 years ago because I just graduated last year. Oh yeah, 5 years ago. So last year I graduated. And when I was going, I had to go through the mature entrance exams, and that was my first time hearing critical thinking. That was my first time in my life. Maybe I'd heard it, but probably not paid attention to it. But that was my first time. I'd read books because that's what I depended on. You know, to read books because I wasn't getting the formal education. So because I wanted to be on air or I wanted to be a journalist, I would go and read books. But critical thinking, I really understood the entire concept in the university because I was writing my mature entrance exams and they required that I took a test like that. At what point did you think that this was a thing? What prompted you to say that I am going to train people, or young girls and young boys, to become critical thinkers?
This is very interesting. I started the NGO, well, really operationalized in 2021. I got a grant. I went to Harvard, got some money. So I started implementing in 2021. And what I started with was my Brooksville Mobile Library projects for the demographic, the children demographic I talked about. And as I was doing it, I just realized that at the pace at which I'm doing it, I'm not going to have the impact that I need because I realized that at that point, their ability to make deductions was very low. Right? And so I said, okay, let me bring in young adults. Let me sort of take it to an exponential level. To start university chapters to implement the Brooksville Mobile Library project. And then when I started university chapters, I realized that the deductions at the university level were also low. So that's how I got into, like, really, now, okay, I'm refocusing my energies. We need to have young people who think critically, who are able to make deductions, premise, conclusion. Okay, from this means this. If I do this, this is the outcome. This, those type of things. So that's how I got into it.
We'll come back. So let's go straight to Reverend. Let's talk about some of the impact stories that ever since you started your advocacy or your charity project, you've experienced that even to you are life-changing. Share with us some of your stories. You're welcome.
Reading club, myself and Mrs. Kundia, and we impacted a lot of people by learning on how time management is done. Because realize we wave away a lot of time, especially adults when you're growing, the young adults. So we were
wasting time on unnecessary things.
Unnecessary things, And when you time yourself very well, you can do more. So we brought them together, the young ones, and then taught them on basic things that they may need to attach in life. One of the stories was that some live in nice homes, but yet don't know how to do a lot of things.
Wow.
So we gather them. Get caterers. Flower. Event planning. That you can do it in a nice way, a smaller way. And we happen to get somebody that is now on board doing events. Myself, I do events. And they plan very well, but from zero to grace at this moment.
Awesome.
So talking to them lets you know more about them. many people are being driven away. Whom to share your ideas with, the talent in you, bringing it out. So being able to allow people come close. They call me Ma Fosti. You love them, you pull them, and then they get to know what really they want. So impacting, we have done a lot, but this particular one, somebody who couldn't talk, you know, was dumped and couldn't talk. So practically we realized that because they shone hair. But when you tell it's possible, there is hope. Gradually, now that child is speaking.
So what? It wasn't like it was again. They'll say that it's a neurological problem, but it wasn't that they were born
not at all,
not talking.
Not at all.
Oh,
some of them born like, others being shouted when the language is not coming very well, and so they leave them behind because nobody to take care of you. Sometimes mothers will try, fathers will try, but they want to be loved, to be associated with other people. So we go far to those people, and then, what do you want to do? I love this. You could see that it's coming out.
Yeah.
And then we find a psychologist. We have people.
Yeah.
We have doctors, psychologists. In the church, we have big people like that. Other people also around. We normally contact them. There is this problem. Then they check on. So we have somebody who wasn't able to talk, now is talking very well and is happy. And apart from that, seizures in school. Many children are suffering within when they go to school and being shouted on. You know, when you are young and you go to school, especially the secondary or SHS, should I call, and you don't participate in so many things. It's like you are dumped somewhere. But when you have that edge of moving forward, somebody tells you it is possible. You can do it. So I've been able to impact the girls, boys, and many, many who are now moving. They call on you, come see, there's a problem here. Then you just call on others who can also help. Financially, and then financially sometimes it's a bit difficult.
Yes, it is.
Yes, because we had a challenge over there whereby friends and families come around and then help do this great job. So for me, the story is that nobody should be kept somewhere. There are many with hope. We impacting with hope. There is a future in you. You can do it. Why not helping the person to move? I always say that we came with nothing, we go in with nothing. But if you have the help, why? We clothe them. We give them clothing. We give them food to eat. Especially the aged, we send them for excursion.
Yeah. We're just seeing some videos on screen. If you guys can bring it back. Bring back the video of Reverend Fosti.
Okay, so
enjoyment.
Yes. Sometimes it's so sad. In a community for about 50 years, not talking to neighbors and friends. Wow. Because you're always indoors. You go in and come out. But fortunately, now they come around. We fed them on so many times. We've given them food to eat. Not only that, apart from that, they also tell us their stories. And they have things that we have to learn.
True.
Somebody baked and was able to care for all their children. Somebody cooked kenke. She said when she traveled outside, she was doing kenke, you can imagine, and had enough to care for their children. And they have herbs in our land here that they can teach us. Drink this tea so that you don't get sick. They are all there for us. So they've been able to do a lot. I have enjoyed them and still enjoying having them. And so we have a lot of story to share with the aged, with the young ones as well.
I think what we can do though, and I don't know if we would like to partner, but I think that based off from what she just said about they having things that they could teach us, we could do a partnership where we have the young people, the you people are mentoring, meet the older folks, have a great day, just spending a day together,
Wonderful.
learning and just mingling. One thing is very therapeutic for the older people too, but for us, it's a moment to learn from their experiences. How come you went this far in life and you're here alone? Sometimes we forget that we're all going to grow. Sometimes we forget as we live life, we forget that we'll become 60, 70, and our children will leave us. What do you do? Based off from their story, we're able to learn and do better. How about that? I think it's a good idea. If people don't take it up, I'll take it up. I'll take it up. But impact stories. You started off by telling us how, you discovered your purpose in finding solution to this problem that you had identified growing up. How are you becoming that woman that solves these issues? What are some of the impact stories you would like to share with us?
Definitely. Thank you. And before that, I just want to touch a little bit on what you've mentioned with regard to Reverend.
Yes.
And
yes.
for me, I believe so much in partnership. And those that follow me know that, I see this space, this NGO space, as one that works much better when we collaborate.
Collaborate, yes.
Because non-profit is hard. It's very hard. And people might think that, oh, you're just doing something like it's not, but you see, you're not generating any money.
Yeah.
You're not, it's not a business where you can say, I'm going to fall on this to do this and this and that. So it makes it very difficult. Sometimes you wake up just based on the passion to move. Otherwise, it's very easy to quit. Yes, very easy to quit. And that is why many people actually tend to quit. Because you wake up and it's like there's no motivation to continue. Like you really want to, but how can you go? You yourself, you're not even eating. So how can you go? Yes. I mean, yes, for many people. But thank God that we have the chance to partner and do things like that. So definitely I am down for it. Okay. And so for the impact stories, I can also see on the screen that some videos are being shown. And these are moments when we go into the communities, deep into the communities, where sometimes our bus cannot even go further. So we have to get Aboboya to sit on it and then continue. Yes, that's how deep we go to communities in Central region, Eastern region. We've been to the Savannah, Western region, and so on and so forth. But for us, when we see the children receive, say, their backpacks, because we do those massive outreaches where we go give them their learning materials and all of that. And then we also spend time with them to just speak to them, encourage them. Sometimes also just get to know what their challenges are like. Because when we come back and then we are reporting on it, once we know, okay, this is the challenge or that's the challenge, we're able to go further to find help for them and then go back, to the communities. There are some of the schools that we also kind of like adopt, like the La Wireless cluster of schools. We go there every now and then to just make sure, follow up on the children, to just make sure that they are doing much better. And so for the 13 children that I mentioned, that we literally took them under our arms just to make sure that we are finding them support, not just academically, but emotionally, and also to give them the sense of community where they can also unearth their talents, like I mentioned with Prince. And so for me to see children like Elizabeth, who we discovered in an incomplete building, at the verge of being sent back to some remote village, abandoned by her parents, living with her grandma, and seeing that Elizabeth today is doing so well in primary school. When we found her, she had never been to school, wouldn't speak anything in English. Even in Tree, like her confidence level was low and everything. Now, when you see her, she would speak to you, she would advise you. Like, yes, and then you can see that this is clearly someone that is really bright, but the only problem that she had at the time was lack of opportunity. And today, because of the work we are doing for her and the other 12 children, they are doing so much better. And there's also children like Delight and her sister Rita, whose parents are handicapped. Her mom has a disease, and then the dad also, got into an accident, hasn't worked for a very long time. Now, these two children are so brilliant. We took them to a private boarding school. We work with a private boarding school because of the circumstances in their communities. Now, I tell you, we find sponsorship for a child to go to school. The next time you visit the school, the child didn't go to school. The mother is telling some stories. It's just a total mess. And that's because even the mothers and then the community members themselves are also having their own problems. And so in order to help the child, you have to take the child out and then bring the child back. And so for us to bring the child back, we are trying to tell them that, you know what, we took you out to go and learn one or two things and become a leader in your community.
True.
To also help other children and even your family to come out of poverty.
That's amazing.
Yes, that's what we try to do for them. And so when we see the likes of Delight become senior prefect in her school, then you can tell that, yes, this is someone that has the potential. She just needed help to become what she's meant to be in the society. Now this girl wants to even be a surgeon. They were on TV actually last year, May Day, talking about what they want to be, and it's just been amazing. So for me, I see the progress every day. Sometimes I speak to them, Prince Kojo, like this. The guy I said he makes the toy cars with wood. initially he cannot speak nothing in English. And not to say that it's wrong for them to speak in their local dialects, but we know the world that we are in, and you just need to have some things on your fingertips, right? And he was very fixated on his cars that he didn't even want to go to school. So we had to do a whole, like, talking to him, letting him understand that, listen, building a company or a car company doesn't mean that you just wake up and just put things together. But you need to know math, you need to know English, you need to know, now he comes back from school. Now he's in senior high school, in a technical school, by the way, and learning automobile engineering. He comes back from school. He just sent me a text. Auntie Kezia, how are you doing? And he won't type in short, short text or whatever. He's typing well. And I'm like, yes, that's my boy. It's really good. Yeah. So those are the moments when you realize that the impact is really felt, and you can see it from where they were, where they are now, and then you can clearly see that we are going somewhere. So it makes so much sense in what we are doing.
Now, Ms. Jenkins, back to you. You told us about how it's almost difficult to track impact, but you are actually, able to. Now, let's talk about some of the issues. We'll talk funding. Funding will definitely be on top of it. Is this still the problem when it comes to running an NGO? And how are you able to, take care of your foundation, make sure that you are making impact regardless?
Yes, funding is very much still an issue. I think it's everybody's biggest issue, right?
It is.
But I think I have a very supportive family. So last year, for example, we did our annual conference and we raised all of that purely from friends and family. And to me, that in itself shows that we are making impact. Because if people can see and people are willing to give their money towards what we are doing, then it means that they understand where we are going and they want to see that we get there. So yes, funding is a very big issue. But another issue for me, obviously that's the problem we are trying to solve, right? But it's the fact that a lot of young Africans don't think that they have like a part to play in our development. So yes, I'm saying critical thinking, I'm saying problem solving, but you see that if you even give these people these skills and the opportunities, jobs, so that's how we measure our impacts, right? Number of students. So we've scaled to about 7 African countries. We have about 1,000 students within our university chapters, 25 university chapters. Students run, so they are semi-autonomous bodies. So that's teaching them how to be leaders. They have to come up with like an executive council, find a patron, register the club, come up with a schedule, and then we help them to implement everything that they want to do. But you'd see that everybody, or a lot of them, don't want to make blanket statements, just want to go to the West because they believe that they won't be successful
in Africa.
So that's one of my major problems, because the question is, who do you want to solve the problems we have here? Who should make Africa globally competitive so that it is a place that you think have opportunities and you think can be successful? And so those are the questions that I ask myself and I ask the students I work with. Another issue, another challenge is, team. Right?
Why did you pause on that one?
Because I want to
finding the right people,
volunteers, as well as staff. It's a big issue but it goes right down to critical thinking, problem solving. Who do you want to solve the issues for you? Who do you want to solve the problems for you? You're part of a team. You're being paid to do some work, even if you don't think the amount is equal to the work that you're doing. You should have it in you. You should be intrinsically motivated that if you say you will do something, you do it. I don't understand why we have so many people within our society who think they are doing you a favor.
What, Mommy, where did that come from? Because we have an older person, maybe she has an answer.
Yes.
Why do people feel so
not participating?
Yeah, why?
Or not working. Laziness is one of them.
Of course.
Yes, I am grown, and I'm telling you, laziness. Make up the mindset. Think of the positive aspect. Just like you are saying, we can partner. I thank God you are here.
Yes.
Because we can do it. Look at the streets. We have been working for children. They just put things anywhere, anyhow. Nobody's checking on them. So our country continue to be in that mess. If we can come together and tell the children on the street that today when you pick it, I'll give you yogurts. Tomorrow, check on somebody who put it there and let's go for that person. The country will move. Like you are saying, everybody wants luxury, but we don't want working. You see me sitting here, I do a lot of job. I am MC for program marriages.
Oh.
Yeah, I
So
stand
you're
there.
coming to do my wedding for me?
Yes, that's good. Great. That's for free for you. That's
I'm putting together my team.
Yes.
Yesterday, I got the people who are performing at my wedding.
Yes.
I just got my wedding MC, so people were
Go
going.
to my Instagram, Fosty_Cole.
Oh, wow.
International
Guys.
one. And then I'll
Lazy
stand it.
children.
Yes, yes, it's true. Because if you want to look elegant, why don't you put things together? I have been a single mother, may I say, for years. And I really love working. Because if we don't go, the leopards say, you stay, we die. We go, we die. But they moved. And there was a work for them to do. So the mindset should be changed.
Yeah.
That is only the outside world that you can have asset to grow. No, there are a lot of things here. Farming is there. If you make up your mind and we team up, we're going to get a big something that we'll never forget about.
Yeah.
The critical thinking that you are taking of. You know, people think they are young, we have to enjoy our youthful age, but just as you grow, think about it. Have you made money somewhere that you're going to spend that money? Or what is it that you have that you can boast of? So let it be in your mind that I want to be on top. But you can grow getting on top by you doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So from this day forward, those lazy people should come up. The talented people should bring it out.
You lazy squad, come here.
That's it.
When you join an NGO, aside of the fact that what they're doing there is non-profit, so which means that whatever money they're giving to you is either out of pocket or some level of sponsorship, you have the sole responsibility to make that happen as long as you put your word in it. I was telling a friend last year, we started a project and I was telling him that, and he wanted to drop out, and I was like, nobody will trust you after this. And I'm telling you, it's not my project, we're doing it for someone. But nobody will trust you because what you need to do is to make sure that whatever you say you do, unless the person is putting a knife on your head, or they're maltreating you, or they're treating you poorly, which, by the way, even by that, you need to have a conversation that this was the agreement. But if this is the condition, that's boundaries. If you treat me this way, then I might not have to continue this project with you. I might not be able to continue this project with you because I don't like the treatment. But aside that, you don't give your word to someone and say that I'm going to be part of this and then eventually just show up and not do nothing. And I'm saying this based on experience because I run an NGO too. Yes, I was going to say this at the end of the conversation.
Okay.
It's called Hey Girl. So when we're starting the conversation, I did tell you that I became a teenage mother. And I became a teenage mother at a very young age. Yeah. And so, but then my family was there with me. I had 3 brothers, a younger sister, my mom. And everybody was a nanny in my house. Everybody was my class teacher. So my brothers used to teach me in school because I was about writing my BC when I got pregnant. And so they would teach me at home. I had a whole team. You would think I was going to write the DET or something like that. I had a team behind me. But it was when I came out here, because at some point my father died, with, money and stuff became an issue. So I came out here to come and hustle for myself. Now, it was when I came here that I realized that it's not normal to be a teenage mother and have support. Yeah. People don't have support. So they are detached from the society because they have to follow a different pattern from what it is that they are. Yeah. So someone was born or created to be a doctor, but they became a mother at a younger age. So now their whole life has changed. They're going after things they don't even understand. And they're struggling because this is not what they were called for. I say that reinstating mothers back into the society, teenage mothers back into society, is the real problem that needs to be solved. Because once you redirect them back to what it is that they're supposed to do, then they're clear on their path where they're going. And so that's how Hegel was birthed. So we started by going to the hospitals and paying the bills for teenage mothers. Because mommy, that they keep them there. They will not let them go. And the bills will be piling up and they don't have support. So we started in 2019 paying bills. Ogboji Polyclinic was where we started from, Rage and a few other hospitals. and we pay the bills for teenage mothers, below the age of 20. When we pay that bill for you, we have a few sessions with you. And because we didn't have money, we'll let you go, but we'll tell you how you should go and start. Then the following year, which was 2020, which COVID was there, so we couldn't do much. 2021 was the following year. Gandor Cosmetics supported us again. And then we went back to now start paying for training sessions, those who wanted to start, skills training and all of that. But that was also on a smaller scale. Then we came to 2022, 2023. Now, 2024, my team was like, Mimi, we have to go big. Now, talking about the team, it was just 3 of us. My assistants at the time and my classmates, because I told you I was back in the university, but I was already in the media space. And these 2 girls were my team. After these 2 girls, because Na got married and went to the US, and Zita got it back fully into the media space, I was left alone. Everybody we brought on the team after that was a problem. Everybody, from graphic designers to it was a problem. I was losing my mind every day. At some point, I was like, yo, bro, is this, God, is this how we are doing this thing?
It's crazy.
I'm telling you, on the 4th of March, we're starting a whole new movement, which is the school tour. Because we're saying that where the problem begins, based on experience, is that primary 6 and JHS 1. That gap, that's where everything is altered. If they mess up there, that's it. Because once the child is spoiled in that level, going to the SHS is just going to be amplified. But once you get them on that level, you're able to redirect them back into the space and then make sure that they are, focusing on purpose, not pressure. Actual vision, not vibes, not social media vibes. So we're starting that journey. See, the team members are killing me.
I honestly
team is a problem.
That's it.
Yes.
And catch them young.
Yes.
They'll be yours forever.
So we are catching them young.
Yes, catch them. I have a book for
Collaboration.
that.
Where's the collaboration come from?
Catch them young. Train the child the way he should go.
Indeed.
When he gets it, no matter what. One word will stick there, and he'll come back doing what you want them to do.
Indeed.
Yes,
Indeed.
because my children are supportive with what I'm doing now.
Indeed.
And I'm grateful because my toil will not be in vain.
Yeah.
Because if they continue and I'm sitting back, I rejoice putting a seed in the soil.
Absolutely.
And now seeing that it's grown. So I think that when we team up very well and also ask for aid, just like you mentioned, it is a zeal. It is a calling. It's not everybody that can do what we are doing.
True.
So when you have that zeal in you, you can't even sleep.
No.
Seeing a child that is suffering, you're going to pay school fees. Even yesterday, yesterday was my birthday anyway.
Oh, happy birthday, mommy. Happy birthday.
And I happened to pay somebody's school fees.
Yes.
Because she didn't go to school. And I said, why? They said school fees. Whether you have it or not,
you have to.
it touch your heart.
You have to support.
Why should I buy a cake?
Yes.
When somebody is suffering for fees. So that is
God
it.
bless you. God bless you.
Yes, and I also wanted to actually add.
Please, before whilst you're saying that, you end by giving us details of your NGO, how we can come and support,
that's fine.
and social media pages.
Sure,
Yes.
thank you. And I was saying, belated happy birthday, and God
Yes.
bless you. I'm very, very grateful for this conversation this morning because, I mean, my husband is watching and he knows very much how I've been complaining a lot lately. Not to say that my team is not supportive. I would be very ungrateful if I say that because I do have a number of committed people that help our work. But what I always say is that, honestly, I would say success or achieving something great is not only on the other side of fear, but also on the other side of stepping out of your comfort zone. And I'm saying this because there are many times when I wake up and honestly, I'm just not feeling well within. And this morning is one of those days. Yes, this morning is one of those days because I've had a very, very hectic week. And I'm literally juggling, a legal career with running an NGO. And you can just tell how crazy that is.
Crazy.
And I've had to literally sacrifice a lot to make sure that this happens because I realize that many people come out of law school and are focused on, climbing the legal ladder, become associate, become senior associate, become partner and whatnot. But I saw it as I'm so passionate about this space. It would really break my heart to see that all the children that I've taken up all the way from, you can imagine, senior high school, and then now I'm a lawyer, so I cannot continue that. So I had to sacrifice a place where I was being paid like salary constantly, and then, under seniors and whatnot, and to a place where I can merge the two. And this place works so much for me, so much so that now I'm even doing social impact work work in the law firm.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful to my Madam Azoe Acha and co. Just yesterday, we even organized a training for the Human Trafficking Secretariat at the Ministry of Gender. Now, what am I driving at? I've also noticed that thing about young people that are very focus more on like what can we get in our pocket, how can we trend, how can we create content and all. It's not bad, but how can we tune our minds to be more impact conscious? I'm very grateful you mentioned this because it's part of this year we are 10, and it's part of the things that I have been looking to do, especially for the people in the universities. And I'm even glad you mentioned that it's a period.
Yes.
So even university might be too late anyway.
Yeah,
But we are just thinking, how can we get people to really understand that you can actually be in your job, you can climb the academic ladder, you can do whatever you want to do, but just always remember that no matter where you find yourself, you can give back in any area. These days, there's environment, there's children, there's aged, right?
There's climate,
there's mental health.
Yes,
You
there's a
know,
lot of
so
things.
wherever
Yeah.
you find yourself, just always have that thing at the back of your mind that whatever I'm doing, if I even start a business, I would have something, a CSR, whatever, to give back, so that we are all doing something little in our own little way to give back. Because the non-profit space is very, like I said, difficult, and also raising funds is hard. But if you are in a space where you can, generate funding, then make sure that you are helping someone else. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity
No,
today.
thank
And
you so much
we
for
are for the
sharing.
Future organization. We are not only operating in Ghana now, but also in Nigeria. So you can follow us on FTF Ghana on Instagram, all across social media handles, and then FTF Nigeria. We are for the Future Global as well, and our website is weareforthefuture.org. So you can check out what we are doing, and we are happy to connect. We're happy to partner as well.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Ms. Jenkins.
So last words,
Yeah.
right? My last words are that you should have ownership of whatever you do. So whether you're working a 9 to 5, you are a freelancer, you're a social entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur for profit, no matter what, have ownership. Because the only way that Ghana will work for all of us is if we own Ghana. If we tell ourselves that we want Ghana to work, and so we are going to work towards letting Ghana work. And so our socials, www.reformationcommunity.org. You can find Reformation Community on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, LinkedIn. We do a lot of things, so get involved. And yeah, it was lovely to be here.
No, it was so great. So now to the birthday girly.
Yeah.
Your final
So
words.
just
And
like
of course,
I
your
mentioned that
social
they're
media.
lazy. I'm not talking that you're lazy. Come on board.
Yeah.
Because everything is possible.
Yeah.
You can turn the sun into a manure,
Yeah.
and it will germinate.
Yeah.
So come on board. Let's all move together as a team. I love the way you are doing. As young as you are, when you move like this, the God that we serve will also help us move forward, because we can grow things. And therefore, when you come on the social media, Marosam Foundation, on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, we are all there. You come on board, and then you have us there. You also find me at Fosty_Cole if you need a proper MC like me.
Proper MC.
Proper one. Not the young, no, the proper one. International one. I speak a little French, a little English,
Awesome.
every,
Oh,
inclusive.
wow.
And
My
so-
wedding is going to be nice.
Yes, it will be very, very nice.
My wedding is going to be very, very nice.
Apart from
Casey,
that,
are you coming?
Oh, I'm
Miss
coming.
Jenkins.
I'm
We
ready.
all
No,
come.
you need
When
to
you
just
get
give us the
the
dates
time.
and times. Dates.
we will do it
Give us the
together.
dates.
So we are grateful today for bringing us on board,
Oh,
and
thank
I
you.
believe that we're ready to help. Young or old, we even have 102, an old woman who is 102. She said, the only thing I need from you, visit me and love me.
Oh.
The church sometimes neglects people. He said, come on board. I love you. We went to Adam, all the way to her home. She said, when the flood came from Kosovo, it has taken out everything. It's also on the platform. And all that people want from us is socialize.
Yes.
Be one team. Love each other. And Ghana will be a great home. We'll love to live forever and ever.
Oh, thank you so much, ladies, for coming. I have enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. And you know how great it is when you meet people who are like you, understand what you're doing, and drop nugget of wisdom that could totally help you and shape your journey. And so collaboration for me is a thing I've come to appreciate, and I keep encouraging us all to do so. If you're a young girl out there and you have a thing on your heart, most of us here started very young. And so I'm glad that we have that story. Starts now in your little way, help make Ghana a great place for all of us to live in. All right. So today we're celebrating the World NGO Day, and we want to say thank you for your service. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for all the hard work you've done. We're speaking to Irama Jenkins, founder, Reformation Community, Kezia Sani Kama Esquire. She's founder and president for the Future Organization, and Reverend Faustina Coleman, founder, executive council director, Mersam NGO Limited. Thank you so much for coming. And to you out there, thank you so much for staying with us. We'll be right back after this.